So for the equation of hyperbola where center is at the origin at 0, 0 and transverse axis, here I just wrote TA, transverse axis is along the y-axis. As we know previously, transverse axis means the line that passes through the 5 important points of a hyperbola. Those 5 important points are center, the 2 vertices, and the 2 foci. So F1, F2, V1, V2, and C center. So if that line that passes through these 5 points is along the y-axis, then the shape would be this. So I drew x and y axis already for you, and you see that all these 5 points are on the y-axis, and therefore the hyperbola will look like this, that it opens up and down, passing through the vertex, and it has the foci inside. So as we already know that the distance between the center and each vertex is called A, and we know that the distance between center and each focus is called little c. So knowing that, and knowing that these 5 points are on the y-axis, then we know that center has coordinates 0, 0. F1, it's a point on the y-axis, so its x-coordinate is 0 and its y-coordinate is negative c because it's below the x-axis. Therefore, F2 is 0 and positive c because it's above the x-axis. Similarly, for V1 and V2, we know that these 2 points are located on the y-axis, therefore their x-coordinates are 0. And then their y-coordinate for V1, because it's below the x-axis, it's a negative value and it's negative a, and V2 is positive a. Also, for any hyperbola, the relationship between ABC is that b squared is equal to c squared minus a squared. That always holds. Now, how do we write the equation? As we talked about it in the first video for the equation of the hyperbola. For that one was when transverse axis along the x-axis, but the way that the equation is formed is very similar. So you always have 2 fractions. You have the minus in between and it's equal to 1. First denominator is always a squared. Second denominator is always b squared. Now, wherever transverse axis is, that one goes in the first numerator location. So because here we are saying transverse axis is along the y-axis, equation starts with y squared, and then the second numerator is x squared. So that's the equation of such hyperbola. When you see y squared as the first numerator, it means transverse axis is along the y-axis. Also remember that there are asymptotes. So each asymptote is a line. It passes through the origin. Let me draw them first. So there are lines. Then we can talk about equation of these 2 lines, equation of the asymptotes. So these 2 oblique asymptotes, equation is always y equals positive, negative, because we have 2 lines. One of them has a positive slope, the other one has a negative slope. And then there is the slope multiplied by x. And there is no plus or minus another number because they're both passing through the origin. Now, how do we know this slope? Remember in the first video, again, we said wherever y located at, look at that denominator. Here we have y over a, so a goes to the numerator, and b goes to the denominator. So these are the equations of the 2 oblique asymptotes of this hyperbola.